This is the 2022 ATTE, and in this three-part miniseries, I'm going to be modifying this bad boy from top to bottom, inside and out. And I'm going to try and work in as many of your suggestions as possible, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. We've already covered the turret in part 1, and if you missed that, make sure you check that out, link down below. And as well, check out this YouTube short. It's essentially part 1.5, where I fixed the biggest issue that most of us probably had with the mods that I did. Make sure you check those out because I'm going to proceed through this video as if you guys already have the knowledge from that original video. Today we're going to be fixing up the cockpit quite a bit and making it a little bit more accurate to what it looks like in universe with these two crazy mods. And we're also going to be covering some exterior mods that I did to minimize gaps and make the plating look a lot better. So I'm sure after getting a glimpse of this, all you guys want me to start up front, but what we're actually going to do is cover these little plates that I put on the side. I'm just kidding, no way am I going to do that to you guys. Let's go ahead and start up front with the cockpit and this roof hatch we built in. So not too long ago, I was rewatching a little bit of the Bad Batch, and one scene where the Bad Batch is hijacking an ATTE, Wrecker pulls open a roof hatch to throw a thermal detonator or pull the guy out or something. And after seeing that, I thought that was really interesting, and I couldn't remember seeing that any time before in the Clone Wars. So as soon as I saw that, I got an amazing idea to try and work in a workable roof hatch into my ATTE. So let's take a closer look. We'll go ahead and get my 501st Trooper out of there. You might be wondering why I have a 501st Trooper. Well, that's because in part 3, we're going to take a look at all the extra seats I added in the rear, and I just don't have enough 212th, so I had to fill it with my 501st Battle Pack. Back to the roof hatch though, you can see it's a pretty simple build. I just have a gray droid arm in there, and then it just has some bar pieces on either side attached to the plates. This hatch has full posability, you can move it around plenty, it can get completely out of the way so minifigures can get in and out of the top, and as well when you close it up, it sits completely flush with the rest of the plates. So of course that required some modification, all these plates up here, the main one being making one of these layers tiles so that the roof hatch didn't attach to the main body. So that way when I put it down, it's not studded in, but it doesn't move either because the droid arm holds it in place. Super seamless connection, super strong as well. I haven't had the roof hatch tear off with the current build anytime. The best way to position your minifigures, if you're going to have them hanging out of the roof hatch, is with their legs in the sitting position. That way they fill up this entire 2-stud wide space, and then with their arms out, they can't slide down. In order to get your minifigures through the roof hatch, you're going to want to make sure you have their arms at their sides. This way they can fit into the 2-stud wide gap and fall down into the pilot seat. And speaking of the pilot seat, you guys caught a tiny glimpse earlier. Let's take a look at what I did inside here. So on the small section you can pull out, I went ahead and worked in an extra chair. It's actually facing backwards. In canon on the ATTE, the spotter slash co-pilot slash gunner actually faces forward, but I didn't really like that. I wanted to make use of the empty space in the back of the cockpit area. I wanted to hang a control panel or a few dashboards on the wall in the back, so that's why I have this figure facing the rear. And you might notice I've actually increased the height of this front plate by 1 stud. So you can see this front window is just a smidge taller. It makes use of a clear 1x2 at the bottom here. And then just above that, the pilot has the controls to make the walker walk. They both have the standard tan chair seating, and the way that the entire assembly slots into the vehicle is the exact same. I kept the rails on the side of these plates as well as the Technic axle to really hold it in place and stop it from rattling around. And on the bottom of the roof hatch here, you might think the little assembly that holds the bar in place would get in the way. But even when I have both minifigures sitting all the way upright, it doesn't get in the way at all and they slide right in without moving the roof. But let's pull them back out and take a look at the rear of the cockpit space to see the controls he has. And you'll notice it's not many. I tore off one control panel from the Clone Command Station little battle pack minifigure pack thing, and the studs on the bottom are empty because when I was experimenting with making this entire system work and having 2 pilots, the minifigure's hands actually extended all the way onto the back wall, so if there were any tiles on those studs, this entire front assembly wouldn't actually be sitting properly in the walker. I believe with the current build you could probably put a tile in there, but it's just a little too cumbersome to get to without taking some pieces apart, so I decided to leave it empty. So going back to that front panel and why I extended the height of this by 1 stud, goes back to that top turret. In part 1 you could see the connection from the turret to the walker was very exposed and it wasn't very pretty. So in that YouTube short that was essentially part 1.5, I showed you guys the mods that I did to help encase that, and now it's entirely closed off and it's level with the rest of the walker, but that required me to raise the height of this cockpit cabin by just a few plates. That way I was able to work in this slope brick and then all these smooth tiles around it, completely smooth and level with the rest of the walker, and it still looks pretty accurate, if not a little bit more accurate. When I was looking at reference photos, there was quite a bit of space between these ball turrets and the roof of the walker, so I think it still looks pretty accurate to in-universe. So that's why this entire front plate has been extended by 1 stud, and then you see more of those clear 1x2 tiles right here. So that pretty much covers everything I did to the cockpit. We were able to work in an extra pilot slash co-pilot slash spotter, gunner, whatever you want it to be seat, as well as some controls on the back side, and a completely in-universe canon accurate roof hatch. And if you guys want a tutorial for this roof hatch, it's quite literally just exactly what you see, but on both sides. Replicate this entire assembly underneath the slope brick on your original set. You don't actually have to raise the cockpit by a few plates to make the roof hatch mod work. I had this mod installed before I raised the height of the cockpit to fit 2 pilots. So if you don't want to do the 2 pilot mod, you can still do this roof hatch mod on the standard set. You'll have an extra 1x4 sitting right here, but just go ahead and apply that assembly underneath that piece if it's still there. And now that we're done up front and we're done recapping part 1.5 up top, let's go ahead and go over the side plating that I did. So I believe 1 or 2 of you guys actually suggested that I fill in the side plating here, and that's exactly what I did. I swapped out these small 2 stud wide angled plates for the 3 stud wide ones, so it helps cover up some of that interior Technic, and it minimizes the gap between the sides and the walker. Trust me guys, we're not done yet. We still have a lot of work to do to cover up these gaps, but this makes it just a little bit better. I'm gonna go ahead and pop off the side legs so you guys can get a better look at what I'm talking about. Here you can see I have some angled plates completely hiding that gap in between the interior cabin and the side plating. It's a relatively simple build and it goes on there relatively easily. It's just 2 of these triangular angled plates, and it just sits on this brick on the inside of the armor plating that allows you to put studs on the side. So all I have to do is slap this build on there super easily, and then I can fold it down, and now that entire gap is essentially gone. I of course did it on the front side as well, but I ran out of light gray versions of this plate, so I had to use 2 dark gray versions on the front end. Oh, and as well, something I forgot, I removed the plates underneath the ball turrets on the side. I thought it made them stick up just a little bit too high, so now they're sitting even with that angled plate behind it. But now that we've completely covered the exterior, I have one more mod that I truly believe to be canon, but I'm not sure if it is. So there's one specific part on the ATTE that I can't find any information online about. In a few shots of the Clone Wars and the Bad Batch, you can see this small assembly on the underside and the backside of the ATTE, and it almost looks like rear-facing cannons. I'm not sure what it is. I've never seen them fire in any episode. I've done a lot of looking into this topic. I've tweeted at a few LEGO Star Wars YouTubers to see if they know anything about it. But I truly believe that the ATTE has some rear fixed cannons on the underside, and that's what I've added today. So if we take a look at my modified walker, you can't really see it most of the time. You can see just a few pieces peeking out from the bottom. But if we flip it around to the backside, we have the 2 standard ball turret cannons that we're all familiar with. And then we have this tiny little underside cannon. Now, like I said, I'm not too sure if this is canon to in-universe, but I truly believe that this exists on the vehicle. It's a relatively simple build, and it's actually right now only held in by 2 studs. These top 3 studs don't actually meet the plates right here. But I did that by design because I don't always like having this on here. Sometimes it gets in the way and it makes my fingers uncomfortable when I'm holding the walker. This makes it super easy to pop off, but I can go ahead and toss it back into that empty space. And now I have a rear-facing cannon that's different from the ball turrets. Now, other than that, I truly believe we've covered everything that I've done to the ATTE so far. Now, that's not actually true. What I've done for part 3 is actually already done, and you can see it through the cracks of the vehicle in this video. But I'm not going to give you guys any hints or spoilers just yet. Just note that I made the most of the space I had, and I maximized it to its fullest. But that pretty much covers all the cockpit and exterior plating mods that I did to this vehicle, and the maybe canon, maybe not fixed blaster that I added on the underside, because after looking at the pictures numerous times over and over again, I'm fully convinced that this vehicle has a fixed cannon on the bottom side. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and all the mods that we did here today. But if you guys have any suggestions for part 3 or even 4, if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and let me know down below. And as well, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future alternate builds or mods that I post. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace, fellas.